Hello folks, and welcome to the channel, or welcome back. And in this video I'm not going to work on Ultrasty, or we're not going to work on any race car. I'm actually getting ready, and I loaded up my truck already to go to the racetrack in the north of France. The circuit is called Croix de Ternois. It's not really a large racetrack, it's about 2 kilometers, but it has a lot of tricky corners, and it's the right time to go out and test the RP-30. And you might have seen all the videos on the RP-30 by the moment we got it and all the work we've done on it. I think it's about ready to go. We did everything I think I should have done on the car, but then again, you never know. There's always surprises on a track, but I like to be fully prepared. That means checking out the entire car, especially if you don't know the car itself. You don't know what's been done to it, you don't know what the state is of it. So I've gone through a full checkout of this car, including the space frame, but also the engine, the brakes, the suspension, and all of that, because it is so important that I'm going to spend my time actually on the track driving the car and not fixing it in the pit. Now I see a lot of my friends that are going to the track for a test, and then they sit more in the pit or the paddock than actually on the track because things do break. So I'm always trying to avoid it. Now that always takes a lot of preparation work, but to be very honest, it's worthwhile doing it. Now on this car, I wasn't too sure about what kind of liquids it had inside. What was the brake fluid in the car? Was it .4? Was it .5? So I had to figure all that out because you don't want to mix these things. Same thing was true for the oil. I didn't know what kind of oil was in it. Was it full synthetic? Was it not synthetic? Was it half synthetic? So I decided to drain it and then put a brand new ester-based oil into it. I really paid a lot of attention to the suspension and the way the bolts were connected together, the rose joints and so on. And you can see on some of those bolts, they are actually secured with a wire or a thread. But I also like to mark all my bolts, and that makes it very easy. Once you're on the track and you come back off the track after you've done your testing, all you need to do is really look on the markings you made, and then you can see if the bolts are loose or not, or if they have moved. Now, typically they should not be moving, but you never know. It's always good to check. I'm very careful always about the steering and the brakes, because those are two areas that are so important. I mean, you are always turning on that steering wheel. No matter if it's on a straight line, you keep correcting it, and you can't afford any play on the steering really. You're going full throttle just before you hit the corner, and then you're braking in a straight line. So the brakes are the parts that are really suffering on the car. So as I didn't know what the brake pads were on this car, I actually removed them. And the ones in the back, I actually had them replaced. The same thing is true for the braking fluid. I already mentioned it, that I didn't know what kind of brake fluid it was. So I flushed it completely through, and I did double check, and it was .4. And flushing the brake fluid is always good practice. In fact, I do it each time I go to the track. I completely bleed the brakes. So I'm pouring in about half a liter of brake fluid, and then I'll suck it out. Drive shafts, well, those bolts have to be really secure, and if they are not, you can get into serious trouble. So a thorough check is not a waste of time, and I keep repeating myself. So then it was time for some more work on the engine, so I'm changing out all the oil filters and also the fuel filter, the spark plugs, and although the spark plugs, they still looked quite alright. It's always good to start with fresh spark plugs. Now, some people really tight those very tight into the block. I typically put them hand tight, and then I'm using a torque wrench so I can set it to the proper torque. So I do not over tension the spark plugs. It's not a good thing to do, and if you wear out the thread in a cylinder head, then you're up for a lot of work. The only thing I don't really like about these race cars is that you can't really drain the oil. There is no drain plug. Remember, this is a dry sump engine, so I always have to suck it out through the oil reservoir, and then I just filled it up, and I think mine takes about 5 liters or so. Now the gearbox is what we call a dog box. This is a Hewland MK9. I'm just checking what the condition of the brake fluid is. I'm putting my finger in it, and then I can check the level. And all by all, this engine is really running very smooth. So once everything was kind of checked and verified, then it was time to finally torque down the wheels and get it all reassembled so we can actually take it to the track for a thorough and real test. So on Sunday, it is not going to be a competition. It is really testing out the car on the track. I think I have 6 runs together with all my friends from the club. That should be enough to check the car out. The geometry of the car was checked before. I also checked the sound level, and I'm running around 94 decibels. And you might remember from my previous race in Zolder, I got twice the black flag and expelled because my RF-85 was making too much noise. I had like 98 decibels, which was too much. Anyway, the biggest job on this RP was really building a new aluminum race seat, and you can see all that on my YouTube channel on how I created a complete and very cozy fitted, custom-made race seat, fit to my size, of course. And here it is, and I think this is looking pretty neat, and it's very good to sit in. I put some foam in it as well because some people warned me I'm going to get bruises if you don't put foam in. It's a very thin piece of foam. It's the kind of stuff that you typically see on campings. Anyway, I loaded everything up this morning, and yeah, we are about ready to hit the road tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock. I will come back to all of you later with the results of the race, and then you will see more footage on all that. And then next week we're going to continue, most likely with Old Rusty. Thank you for viewing. Bye bye.